Hi, good evening, everyone, to the Cyber Monday event. Streams every Monday at 6 p.m. EST. Today we have our speaker Carl, who's going to be talking about the growing the growing threats in small businesses with cybersecurity, right? So, without further ado, I'm going to give it over to Carl, and he's going to get started. Thank you again, Carl, for spending your time and being here today.
No problem. It's definitely a pleasure to show up and present today. Cybersecurity for small businesses is very important. And why cybersecurity matters for small businesses, protecting your business in a digital world, it matters for many reasons. One of the reasons is the growing threat to small businesses. Now, when it comes to small businesses, threat actors are 43% more likely to target you for a multitude of reasons. They're becoming prime targets because when you're a small business, typically you don't have many options. You don't have many people you can go to. You don't have many cybersecurity teams. So that's why they're going to target you because it's going to be less of an issue than if they target, say, a bigger cybersecurity company. And you may be thinking, oh, well, if we're a small business, what's really at stake? Are we going to lose that much? Yes, you actually can. You lose customer trust. And when you lose the trust of a customer, it is extremely hard to get it back. It's not as easy as some people might think. And not to mention the financial losses due to fraud or ransomware. A lot of businesses will get hit with ransomware because if you go to, say, the police or try to go to local authorities for help, it may shock you, but a lot of them are just going to say there's nothing we can do. Because if you have no evidence, or, well, obviously you have the ransomware, but if you have nothing that they can trace, nothing that they can go after or cling on to, it's very hard for even law enforcement agencies to stop it. That's why you want to prevent it before it even happens. The legal repercussions from data breaches can also be very severe because let's say all your customers' information and passwords get wiped. They're going to be very upset and they're going to want someone to blame. And if they trusted you with their data and you said you had cybersecurity or top line cybersecurity and you don't, that's a lawsuit because you claim that you could protect their data and you did not protect their data. And they're going to want to blame and get financial compensation, which again can affect your business and turn into even a class action lawsuit, which is something you definitely don't want to have. Business downtime and loss of productivity, another big one. Let's say your company relies solely on the internet. Let's say that your company needs its services up to make money. If they're down, you're not making money. And not only are you not making money, you're probably going to have to refund the customers for those days that you've had downtime because they're not going to want to pay you for days they weren't getting service. So, if we go on to the next slide here, the top cybersecurity threats are going to be phishing attacks. I'm going to break each and every one of these down so you understand. Phishing attacks, what they are, it's let's say I wanted to get into a company. I would send them an email disguised somewhat like the CEO, and I would try to make it as indistinguishable as possible. So this way you'd click on it or download a PDF or download something that would give me access to the computer. And then once I'm in, I could be in there for months, even years before finally launching an attack. And by then, your entire infrastructure could be compromised. It could be an attack that could cost you millions. And why would threat actors do this? Because some of them will play the waiting game if they know they can get a big payout. So you definitely do not want to assume that if you find out you're compromised, that that's the only entry point. You want to check everything. Next, ransomware. Ransomware, you probably heard it in media, you probably heard it on the news. What ransomware is it's a program that's malicious. It can be downloaded through an email, and it allows the attacker to lock down everything on your computer, all your files and everything, and demand that you pay a ransom, normally in Bitcoin, though other cryptocurrencies have started popping up, and they demand that if you don't pay the ransom, they won't give you your stuff back. Now, that's obviously a big issue because those ransoms, depending on your company, can be extremely high. And it's going to be a big definitely kick in the side if you knew to prevent it, all you would need is just a solid cybersecurity plan. Because you could maybe pay a quarter of that for a cybersecurity plan that's solid and pretty much prevents most attacks, but now you're having to pay much more. Next, we've got weak passwords. Now, this is actually a multi parter because it's not just having weak passwords. Some companies write their passwords down on sticky notes. Not good, because a lot of people tend to use the same passwords across multiple accounts. So not only are those employees putting the company at risk, they're also putting themselves at risk, because if they use the same password that they use for their business, let's say for Hulu or their bank account, well, guess what? Now the attacker has access to their bank account or Hulu. And if you use your credit card on any of those, like let's say Hulu, well, now they have access to your credit card info. It's not good. It's just a rabbit hole that you don't want to fall under. Weak passwords. The way attackers work is they're not guessing a specific person. They're just taking a batch of credentials and they're testing to see what they get. So if your password's weak, they're probably going to get you and probably pretty quickly. And then if you're an admin and you have to explain to your bosses why your account just stole millions of dollars from the company savings, it's not going to be a fun thing for you, because if the attacker's gun covers his tracks, you could be falsely accused for fraud, which you don't want. So it can also be liable to you for that. Next, insider threats. A lot of people assume, okay, well, if I just limit outside attention, if I limit the outside connection to the inside, I'm good. But no, a lot of threats come with inside the company. They come inside the company because people don't follow good cybersecurity practices, and without proper training, they're not going to. There's actually a story of a person who went to train this company, and he found out that over 70% of their people failed at social engineering attacks where they gave out information they should not have given. And the employer for that company wanted to fire them. He wanted to say, nope, give me names. I want names. I want to fire them. And the pen tester said, no, I'm not going to do that, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to fire them. You're going to hire some new people. And then 5 years down the line, you're going to have the exact same issue. It's not about getting new people. The employees aren't necessarily in the wrong. You need to constantly be training them at least once a year at the minimum to make sure that they keep up the same practices. It's when they fall into that lull where they kind of get comfortable that they start slipping up and making mistakes. You do not want that to become a habit. Next, malware and viruses. So notice how I put both of those in different categories, even though they're considered similar. Malware is a virus controlled by a hacker. A virus operates independently. Malware is a lot more dangerous because that means the hacker can turn on your cameras, monitor keyboard strokes, and do whatever they want once in the computer. A virus, it's just doing one task over and over repeatedly. So a virus can be dangerous, but not as dangerous as malware. Definitely stuff you want to watch out for. And I would say, even at the bare minimum, download Malwarebytes. It's free. They give you a free trial. It's one I recommend and trust. And it's one I was trained to use when helping out Cisco, when I was taking some Cisco courses. And since it's free, you're not losing any money. It's definitely the bare minimum you should have on all your computers. Next, if we go to why cyber criminals target small businesses, some of the things I mentioned before: limited IT resources. A lot of small businesses don't have good IT. That means if you're hacked, you don't have anyone to go to. You might not even know you're hacked. You might think it's just issue in the systems. You might think it's just like a glitch. So you might not even know you're hacked, and it could go months undiagnosed. And in those months, a lot of data can be just given away, and that's not a good thing. Also, the perception of weaker security systems. A lot of smaller businesses aren't going to know what IDSs or IPSs are. A lot of you probably don't. And I'm going to break them down, not too much, but I'm going to break them down. An IDS is an intrusion detection system, and an IPS is an intrusion prevention system. Think of them like firewalls. A lot of bigger companies have them, a lot of smaller companies don't. What they do is they monitor common cyber threats, but they're very expensive. So, even if you can't afford them, even just having someone that you can pay that can monitor this stuff individually is still going to help you a lot, because then you at least have somebody watching. It still saves you money, and it's not a big inconvenience. So it's something that you can get without breaking the bank. Next, valuable customer and financial data. Because you're a small business, you're typically wanting to build trust amongst the customers, and you're going to have a lot of customers going to their friends saying, "Hey, I found this business, they're really great and they're amazing." And here's where the issue comes in. um, we talked before about trust. In this case, let's say that this customer just went out of his way to promote your business, and then you get hacked, and the friend they promoted to now gets all their data stolen. Now, both the person who promoted you and you both look like fools, and that's not a good thing, and that's very hard to come back from, especially even years later. Because years later, that may be in an article somewhere, and what's on the internet stays on the internet. It's not something you can easily get rid of. So, reputation is key, especially if you want any type of business in this modern society. Next, why you should invest in cybersecurity. The obvious one, we've talked about it a lot: protecting sensitive data. And I know I keep mentioning it, but it is very important because so many people are prone to use the same data across multiple accounts. It can be a major issue if it gets compromised, because that means it's not just your website that their account is compromised on, it could be multiple. And it's a big security risk for other companies too, because let's say the person who put their password in is an admin for another company, that company's, and they get hacked because your data breach, they're going to again be very upset and look for someone to sue, look for someone to take their anger out on. And that's a big deal because you're the reason they just got hacked because you didn't have good security. Next, you want to maintain customer trust. We talked about that again. Again, yes, customer trust is very important. If you don't have good customer trust, you don't have a business. A lot of companies, you see it in the news now, a lot of companies that are very big can immediately have big issues. Let's use Intel as an example, not to throw shade at Intel, but their i9 13,900Ks and 14,900Ks, they started having some issues where they were breaking very bad. And they were a very big company, and people thought, oh, Intel will never go out of business. They are suffering from that. That is now something they are suffering from, and albeit not a cyber attack, their customers trusted them to produce a quality CPU before selling it to them, and they did not meet those standards. And now a lot of people wasted what is around $800 for what they thought would be a brand new CPU, and they're being told, "Oh, there's nothing we can do about it," or they're being given the most unacceptable customer service responses, and it's not okay. You do not want to be like them, and what they did is going to stay on the internet forever. They're never going to live that one down. Don't be like them. Next, you want to avoid costly breaches and fines. Now, you may think, oh, the likelihood of me getting breached or getting fines from this is very low because I'm a small business. Not many people know about me. Yeah, you're right. It might be low. But again, hackers are going to target small businesses. And if they do get you, it doesn't matter how low it is. The breaches and fines are going to be way more, significantly more, to the point where paying for cybersecurity would be a small little fraction, an inkling of what those fines would be. It's not worth it. Don't gamble with your business. It's one of the most important things in your life that you should not gamble with. If you do not absolutely have to, you should not do it. Next, ensuring business continuity. Now, people may not think it, but there's been major cyber attacks recently. Um, I can't think of the one off the top of my head, but there was a very big business. Internet Archive, it was. Yes, that's what it was. Internet Archive, they got hit with a denial of service attack, a distributed one at that. Now, they're a very big company, but no one can access their stuff because they're solely online. They got hit with a massive denial of service attack, and now no one can access their website. That means they're losing a lot of traffic, and the attackers get to essentially keep them offline for as long as they want because they didn't put good money into more extensive cybersecurity measures. It's not a good thing. Next, Steps to protect your business. There's a few different things you can do, and so many of them, but I can't cover them all, unfortunately. That would take forever. Here's just a couple. Use strong passwords and enable multi-factor authentication. Now that won't always fully help you, but that will give you prevention, and prevention is key. Nowadays, hackers do have bypasses, but you have to think of it like this, okay? Let's say without those two things, you would be 80% more susceptible to cyber attacks. With those things, you're now 5% more susceptible because now you're significantly decreasing the amount of people that can actually attack you because everything is skill based. Not everyone is going to have the skill to bypass two factor. Some will, a lot are not going to. So by adding that, you immediately cut your threats by 80%. You've got now 5% like left to deal with. That's a much better margin, and I like those numbers. I think you would too. Next, two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication come in a few forms. I'd recommend at least having an email and a phone. So this way you have two modes of recovery. Because if one of those modes get compromised, you're kind of under the weather, you're kind of screwed. You don't want that. So two is always best. Next, for regularly updating software and systems. Now, I'm going to shed some light on some things. There's some software that you may not think you need to upgrade or update, but you do. One of the biggest ones that I have seen hacked time and time again, and I want to just scream at people to update them. IP cameras. If you have cameras that are accessing the web, hackers, they're not targeting your camera specifically, but they are targeting any cameras that they can scan for. That means at some point, if they've got the money and the resources to do it, they're going to hit your cameras. And that means if you have not updated them and there's a vulnerability to them, they're going to get in. And you may think, oh, they get in our cameras. So what? They can see what you're typing in on your keyboards. They can see where you're keeping important money and important valuables. They can see how your security measures go. They can see so much through a camera. It's insane. You do not want that. They can listen into conversations that you do not want people knowing. Always update them. Always update your computers. Anything that leaves the company, make sure it's up to date. Phones, just anything. If you're using it and it can access the internet, even printers, always update them. There's so many vulnerabilities and always new ones coming out. It can be a major threat. Next, we also want to talk about educating your employees on cybersecurity and the best practices. Now, you don't got to give them the entire cybersecurity handbook. You don't got to say, here, I want you to learn this in a day. You need to know everything because they're not going to. But what you do want to do is just say, hey, this is typically ways you might be hacked. Please try to avoid it. What a lot of hackers will do, and if if they're smart or just if they know a little bit about social engineering, they might find out where your employees like to go eat. They might go to your company and say, hey, I'm thinking about working at this company. Do you know any places that are good to eat, like for a lunch? And then guess what? They're now going to go and meet your employees at those places. Let's say you say, oh, yeah, there's Chick-fil-A that the employees like to go to. They're going to wait, try to talk to your employees when they're out on lunch, and they're going to try to get information that they may not even normally give, but they're at lunch, so they're thinking, oh, it's no big deal. It's just some random person wanting to spark up chat. It's not good. They can, and if you have ID cards, they can even use custom hacking tools to scan those ID cards and copy them. Again, stuff you want to be very careful of. Next, you want to make sure how they are talking to people on the phones. You want to make sure that they obviously are nice and considerate, but they're not giving out more information than they have to. Because if they hand out more information, that can turn into a big issue where now your company is handing out ways to get free stuff, for instance. Let's assume your employee is like, oh, yeah, just fill this out, say this, and then boom, they'll give you a replacement thing. Now, if there's not a lot of ways to check that, a company may say, oh, or not a company, another person may say, oh, perfect. I can use this to get free stuff. I don't have to verify stuff. I'm just going to say this happened, even if it really didn't. And then, well, guess what? Now you're handing out a bunch of valuable just things that you wouldn't be doing normally. It could depend on the company, but it can be a big issue. You also want to invest in reliable antiviruses and firewall solutions. Now, I say invest, but You can also just invest something as simple as your time, because there are so many free solutions out there. PFSense, it's a free firewall that you can set up with ease. You can get Malwarebytes, the free edition. If you like, you can pay for more, yeah, but you do not have to. You can just test free solutions and see how they work. And if you see that you're getting a noticeable decrease in cyber attacks because they're stopping it, that already within itself is a big payback. And even stuff as simple as Snort. If you've got some more advanced techie guys on your side that don't mind a little bit of Linux, test out Snort. I love Snort, for instance. I've even used it on some VPNs that I've made. So, very important just to invest some time, just research some different solutions you could use. Next, back up your data frequently. You always, always, always want to have backups. Now, I'm going to pull something a little silly here. Now, this is silly, but it makes sense. I play Minecraft. I had a Minecraft base in a tree. And I know you're probably wondering what this has to do with cybersecurity, but it's very important. It got struck with lightning, and I thought, oh, it's never going to get struck with lightning. I had the same thought process that all of you did, as it's never going to happen. And I kick myself for that because I should have never had that thought process. It happened. And when I noticed it, half my tree was burned down. I was very upset, but I had a backup. And because I had a backup, I could restore it. Now, think of it like, in my case, that was my base. That was something precious to me. Now, think of it like your company. Let's say you're working on an AI model, or you're working on a website, or you're working on something very interesting. We'll even use Linus Tech Tips as an example. His YouTube channel got hacked. He had all his videos backed up. Some he didn't, but he had most of them backed up. Imagine if someone hacked something important to you and deleted all your videos, all your training courses, everything, and you had to start fresh. You didn't have any backups. That is devastating. That can put companies back years, even, depending on how bad it is. It's not a good thing. You do not want to risk all that when all it takes is taking maybe an hour at max. Even if you're not good with computers, it could take you an hour to learn how to make a simple backup and how to store it. A little bit of research goes a long way. Please do not let an hour be the difference of your company surviving or failing. It's not something you want to gamble with again. Also, I know I've been giving you some solutions. I just want to go over my team. I did forget to do that. My team is Team Leviathan. What we do is we're a cyber mercenary group. We focus on stopping cyber threats at the source. So we do a lot of things. We help people, we train people, but we also engage cyber threats themselves. So we find very high class or high threat individuals that we deem them, and we work on stopping them directly. Now, stopping is a very broad term. We first engage the individual and see, okay, is this individual somebody who can be changed? Are they someone who can promote good in the cybersecurity community? Yes, they've done bad, but can they change it around? We look for that. And then we do an assessment to see if they can be changed. And if not, we follow accordingly to make sure that they are stopped. Typically, working with law enforcement indirectly to help them apprehend the individuals. But if they can be changed, we try to convince them that whatever they've gone through in life that have made them feel that doing illegal actions is the right course, we convince them that it isn't. We show them that there's more to life than what they see. And we've been able to help a lot of people change their ways and even revolutionize cybersecurity. Even one of them, I consider them my my technically adopted kid, because I helped them out and they were going to drop out of middle school. They were in middle school when they started, when they thought life was that bad. I helped tutor them. I helped get them into college, and they still contact me and say, if it wasn't for you, I would have been a failure in life. And I say, no, it's not only me, it's you. I gave them hope where they couldn't see it. So I like to give people hope and show people that there is more than just what they can see if you just open your eyes to the broader perspective. And even some of you might be teetering on that good or bad. Always try to look deeper and think to yourself, do you want to be known for this, or do you want to be known for that? Next, as we continue this, what happens if you don't act? Now, this is where things get really bad. The average cost of a data breach is $120,000 plus for a small business. Now, I guarantee you a lot of you do not have $120,000 plus sitting around that you can just willingly say, oh, yeah, I'm going to chuck this. Even if you're making $1 million in excess profit, even if you are, you're still not going to want to do that because you're probably saving up that money in the hopes to open up a new franchise somewhere. You're probably saving up that money in the hopes to expand your business. And now that can put a major dent in it. So that's what will happen if you don't act. And one thing you may be thinking is, okay, well, if I get attacked, again, I'll just go to the cops. The cops will do something about it, right? Let's say, okay, I know I mentioned to you that the cops will tell you there's nothing they can do. And they might even try to pawn you off to the FBI and say, tell the FBI what happened. And then you get thrown in a file and the file gets thrown in a stack of files because there's so many of them. And no offense to the government, there really is just so many cyber attacks now. It is hard to keep up, and they have to take priority on the much more dangerous ones. The other problem is can they even track the individual? A lot of times, the attacker, by the time the cops go to do anything, any traces are gone. There's not much they can really do. And the attacker, unfortunately, gets away with it. And I've heard an individual say to me, oh, well, all criminals get caught eventually. They always do. No, the dumb ones do. I know you that's not something you want to hear, but it's the sad reality of this world. The dumb ones get caught, not the smart ones. The smart ones or the ones that get lucky, they're not going to get caught. So you want to fight back and you want to defend your business because it is your home. It is something you worked up. It is your child. It is not something you just want to let go. Next, 60% of small businesses shut down within 6 months of a cyber attack. And do you want to know why? Let's say you're barely making it by, or even let's say you're making it good. Let's say you're making in excess of $10,000 or even $20,000 a month after each month, right? But it costs you 40,000 to keep the website up and to keep your business up every month. And those numbers could be a lot, but it can be the truth for some companies. Well, now let's say an attacker is shutting down your website for 6 months. Over the course of 6 months, you have to do 40,000 times six, and that's how much money you have to pay. But guess what? You're not making that excess money anymore. You're not making any money because no one can buy your stuff. No one can have your services if your website is down. It's very easy to go down from that. It's not a good thing and not something you gamble with. So definitely don't say, oh, no one's going to attack us. And I've even heard someone say, oh, what are you going to do? Put up some fancy firewalls? It's not that simple. Please do not think of it as something you can brush off. I know you may think you're safe, but hackers aren't always even just going to pick you. Again, a lot of the times their stuff is automated. They're just going to go through a list, and you are very likely to be on that list at some point. And they make these lists all the time. They generate new ones. That means even if your business is new, you could be on that list. Please do not risk it. Next, a lesson from a small business breach. Brief story of a small business affected by a cybersecurity, ransomware, phishing, etc. So I have a few of these. I actually have so many I can't even count. But we'll use some of the bigger ones. Actually, I'm not even going to use small business. I'm going to use a bigger business for this just because I want you to understand how severe this is. All of you had to have heard of Rockstar Game Studios, the makers of Grand Theft Auto, the makers of Red Dead Redemption. They are a massive company. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, they're a massive company, and they do have cybersecurity in play, but it's not the best because they're so massive, it's hard to keep track of it all. So, even with their small cybersecurity in play, because they don't train their employees, because they don't do any of the stuff they're supposed to do, somebody hacked them with a simple fire stick and a phone. That's it. They just hacked them with a fire stick and a phone. And it was the GTA 6 hacker. They also data breached all of the GTA 6 content, and they were just some teenage kid. living probably in their parents' basement. No offense to any one of you living in your parents' basement. I understand it's hard nowadays. Um, but you get what I mean. It's very much of an issue where even for a major company like that, that was a big deal. And even after authorities had this person, the kid was still able to hack them off a Fire Stick, which is completely unacceptable. It's so unacceptable because they social engineered their way in. And that's a major company. They messed up, and that's going to make them lose a lot of trust. And your company can be just easily hacked. What I'm getting at is, because I know we're talking about small businesses, if a major company like that can get hacked by a teenager, your company is not safe. It's not safe.
Yeah, didn't
And that's why, yeah.
didn't like a few years ago as well, like the CIA got compromised by a group of 13 to 14-year-olds?
Yeah,
Like
I know some businesses like Sony even got hit by Lizard Squad and whatnot, like, and they were like teenagers, I believe, at the time. Like a lot of companies get hit by young individuals, and it's not a good thing because that means those are young individuals. Let's assume someone had years to harness their skills and they're in their 20s or 30s. It can be so much worse. It's not a good thing that you just want to gamble with. So that's why it's very important to know that you can prevent it. And even though Rockstar did get hacked, they still prevented it before major stuff got even worse. But that's the thing. Let's say that happens to you. Do you have an IT team even that you can go to and say, hey, what do I do? And even your IT team half the time aren't going to know what to do. But it's like, because they're just meant to work on the computers, work on IT. They're not versed in cybersecurity. So it's one of those things where it's like, who do you go to if that happens? You don't just want to let it sit there and just be like, oh yeah, I've been hacked. Whip de doo, just another Tuesday. No, you don't want to do that. That's terrible. So that's why it just with the right training, it can be prevented. If you train your employees for just a little bit of money, or even just do it yourself, if you just learn some of the practices yourself and try to train them, it is very important because that can make a big difference. Obviously, you want to have a professional team do it at some point, but even if you're just starting and don't have the money, just doing it yourself, doing a little bit of research can make that much more of a difference. I um I actually have a story about a company I worked for. I can't give out names because I don't think they'd like me too much if I did, but they will know I'm talking about them. I noticed a phishing link was sent to me. The person did a very good job, actually. They disguised it as the CEO, but I caught on to a few things that didn't seem right about it. I notified my team about it. I wasn't the manager of my team or anything. I was just an employee on it. I was a manager, but not of that specific team. And I notified them and I said, hey, please don't click on this. It's the phishing link. I know what it is. Just don't click on it, right? What do? The manager of that team clicks on it. They click on it. The only one who didn't was my cousin and one other person because they trusted me. Not a good thing. So then I said, okay, for free, I will offer my services for free to just give a quick lecture on why it's important and what to look out for. And the director came to me and said, you know what? I don't even care. No, we don't need that. You need to stay in line. You don't want it. You need to stop trying to overstep your position. And you know what I did? I could have said, you know what? This is insane. This is unacceptable. I just bit my tongue. I bit my tongue and I said nothing. And you want to know why? Because that's the type of company that won't see the light until it happens. And they had so much pride in them that they did not want to admit that they were wrong and that I could have helped them because I was lesser in their eyes. Do not let that be you. Do not let that be you as a company. Learn to bite your pride and to say, you know what, maybe I was wrong. I don't want to have to pay out six figures. And luckily, the attack did come from a legitimate cybersecurity company. It did come from the CEO, and the CEO wanted to see how we do. But the company failed. They failed the cybersecurity attack because none of them had training, and I wanted to provide the training for free, and they wouldn't accept it. So you got to understand that just please bite your pride. It's not, your pride is not worth your entire company. Please. So next, we're going to talk about securing your business today. Take the first steps by assessing your current cybersecurity readiness. I want you to ask yourself a few questions. Out of some of the stuff I listed in this, ransomware, malware, phishing, social engineering, take do a little bit of googling, look up what each of those are, like more in depth, and I want you to decide for yourself from 1 to 10. 10 being you're extremely ready, 0 being not ready at all, how you would handle each attack. Right now, what you would do, the steps you would take, and question yourself if that would really be enough. And if you're noticing a lot closer to the 0 range, that's an issue. So please do not let that be an issue. That's something you may want to contact some people to help you out. And some people to say, you know what, here, let's get you in a good spot. Yes, it's a bit of money, but I'd rather pay a bit of money now than a lot of money later to someone who's not even going to benefit me. Next, you want to partner with experts to build a robust defense. Even just talking to people in the cybersecurity community, even just attending conventions, even if you're not that tech savvy, you can talk to people, learn what they think. And if you're able to do that, that alone can help you get something going until you can afford to actually have your own team together. And if you network, they might even give you discounts. Like it just depends, but it's definitely good to start now. Next, contact information for assistance if applicable. So, what that means is essentially you do want to gather contact information from people. And at the end of this, I might even give some contact information down for some people that you can contact. I know Ryan uh, might also have some people you can contact if you want to just have someone you can contact. Say, hey, I saw this. I think my business might be in jeopardy. What can we do about it? If you want someone to physically talk to, and we can let you know.
Well, yeah, and this just to touch on that a little bit. Web developers, right? We do provide cybersecurity training for small businesses. Um, Carl here does help out with that training as well. So uh, you have to ask yourself, right? Is it worth it? Is it worth protecting my dream, right, or my goals as a business owner, right? Because the world is evolving, and you can either evolve with it or be left behind in the world of security. Because that's just how it is, and that's how it's gonna keep evolving, right? As the tech world keeps evolving, so will the cyber threats and cyber attacks, right? But just so you know, Webdown Developers is here to protect you. We're your trusted partner in cybersecurity, and we'd be glad to answer any cybersecurity questions you may have, and provide that training for your small business, right? So give us a call or give us an email. Go to our website, get some more information um, about the program, what the training program entails, and we also have free resources on there, right? Like our blogs and these Cyber Mondays, right? Just to keep all the small business owners that aren't too tech savvy, like in the know, right? In the loop. So just keep that in mind.
Indeed. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, yeah. So, what was like when you started cybersecurity? What was the reason why you started?
So, originally, I started because a friend kind of just brought me on to just some of the stuff cybersecurity and ethical hackers do. And originally, I wasn't too interested in it, just because it wasn't really something I wasn't. I was very preoccupied with other stuff at the time. I was young. It wasn't something I was thinking about long term. But I noticed as I grew up, a lot of people kept falling victim to cyber threats and even being threatened directly by hackers. And I had a person in my life who was being bullied and threatened by a hacker. And it eventually became too much for them. And I kept trying to offer my help, trying to be there for them. And unfortunately, they are no longer with us as a result. Um, and this isn't like a Batman origin story or anything, but it's one of those things where at the start, I started beating myself up over it because I felt like I could have done more. And I sort of despised hackers. I despised cybersecurity. I despised it all at the moment. But then I started seeing just all the different things hackers could do and how far things could go. And in a way, it brought up inspiration because it's like magic in a way. It's like digital magic. But also, I thought if I could learn this digital art, this digital magic, I could use it to protect those who don't have someone to protect them. I could use it to make a change and to enlighten people on why cybersecurity is important. And even for a lot of big business, even for a lot of big and small business owners, let's say you lose your company, you may not be in the best headspace after that too. So I'm trying to be here to help protect that too and help protect people's um, well-being. But that's one of the main things that got me started is because I wanted to make sure what happened to my friend never happened to anyone else, and I also see it like digital magic.
That's a great response. Again, my condolences. Sorry to hear that about your friend. Um, but yeah, everything you said in this presentation, you know, is very feasible, and I think a lot of business owners have a lot to think about after this and a lot to consider. Um, but yeah, thank you again, Carl, for coming on and spending your time today to enlighten us about the current threats and current statistics about if your business did get hit by a cyber attack. I think this was very important today. So I just want to thank you again.
No worries. It's definitely a pleasure to come on, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I love talking about cybersecurity.
Sounds good.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining in on Cyber Monday. Like I said, Webinar Developers does provide cybersecurity training for small businesses, right? We're your trusted partner in cybersecurity. Just go to our website, www.webdino.net, and go to our cybersecurity training page and check us out. But thank you very much. We'll see you guys on Monday at 6 p.m. with the next speaker. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Have a good one.